you take away all the niggas that's over 60 years old speaking on TV, they will never bring up Michael Jordan because he's not real today.
Yeah.
He's real, like we know who he is, but the only people who bring him up is when LeBron James name gets. That's the only reason Michael Jordan is relevant.
Yep.
Three-time NBA All-Star Gilbert Arenas recently made a bold claim that reshapes the GOAT conversation by pointing to a specific date, October 31st, 1994. At that time, Michael Jordan, who would eventually become a six-time Finals MVP, had only secured 3 championships. Yet the city of Chicago had already immortalized him as the greatest of all time with a bronze statue outside the United Center, which was unveiled to the public the following day. Arenas highlights the contrast between achievement and perception, 3 rings at the time, not 6. His argument is that if Jordan was already declared the greatest before his career was complete, then what many fans defend today may not be purely his basketball legacy, but rather the powerful global image built around the Air Jordan brand.
LeBron James in this decade, you take away all the niggas that's over 60 years old speaking on TV, they will never bring up Michael Jordan because he's not real today.
Yeah.
He's real, like we know who he is, but the only people who bring him up is when LeBron James name gets. That's the only reason Michael Jordan is relevant.
Yep. They need somebody to combat that.
Gilbert Arenas isn't some random hot take voice or internet blogger. He's a 3-time NBA All-Star who averaged nearly 29 points per game during the 2005 and 2006 seasons. More importantly, he grew up idolizing Michael Jordan. That detail matters, because what follows isn't coming from a critic who never believed. It's coming from someone who once looked up at Jordan as the standard, someone who saw the throne from close range and now questions how it was built, suggesting it wasn't purely basketball greatness that placed him there, but something larger and more manufactured than fans are willing to admit.
The GOAT has to change. The GOAT has to change because when was the last time Jordan was Jordan? Most of the people who defend Jordan never seen a nigga in real life.
The GOAT has to change. That's what he told millions of viewers on camera. Then he brought out his first piece of evidence, the one that instantly set the comment section on fire. Staring straight into the lens, Gilbert Arenas basically challenged every Michael Jordan defender under 38, telling them to stay quiet and reconsider the way they've been arguing the greatest of all time debate.
Yeah.
Any nigga who born in 90, you don't know Jordan. Shut up.
Facts.
Right.
You don't know Michael fucking Jordan.
Yeah.
If you was born in 88, you don't know Michael fucking Jordan. You don't know what you was watching at 11 years old, dog. Shut up.
If you were born in 1988, Gil argues, you never really saw Michael Jordan in his true prime. You only caught the second three-peat through the eyes of a child, watching a version of Jordan who was already slightly slower than the explosive force who dominated the league in 1988 and 1989 alongside Scottie Pippen. His point is that many of today's online Jordan defenders aren't actually defending the full player, they're defending a curated memory, a highlight reel, a Nike-era image that has been polished and reinforced over time. From that angle, LeBron James becomes part of the contrast. He extended his dominance into his late 30s and 40s, producing deep playoff runs with the Miami Heat, 2012 to 2013, a historic comeback with the Cleveland Cavaliers, 2016, and another championship with the Los Angeles Lakers, 2020. Each stage of his longevity adds fuel to the comparison, forcing people to continually refine how they view Jordan's legacy in hindsight, especially after the Last Dance documentary reignited global nostalgia in 2020. At this point, Gil shifts from commentary into something closer to a case being built in real time.
The statue that's built outside the United Center and say greatest of all time, he was still playing, bro. He only had 3 rings when they built the shit. He only had 3 rings.
When he was the best player, when they gave him the number
It said greatest of all time. That was not built when he was
3 rings, not 6. 3. Technically, the bronze plaque doesn't literally use the phrase greatest of all time, but it does declare, the best there ever was, the best there ever will be. Gil paraphrases it, arguing the meaning still hits the same point. Those words were carved in 1994, at a time when Jordan had only 3 championships on his resume, with the second three-peat still years away. That's the detail Gil keeps coming back to, then he drops the date.
October 31st, 1994, the statue was installed at the United Center, right? 94. So at this time,
3 rings.
3 rings. He was already deemed, on the statue, it says, greatest player of all time.
October 31st, 1994, Halloween night in Chicago. At that moment, Michael Jordan wasn't even on an NBA roster. He was gone from basketball, playing minor league baseball in a completely different world. The second three-peat hadn't happened yet. The Wizards chapter didn't exist. There was no flu game in 1997, no iconic shrug in the 1992 finals, nothing that would later be replayed endlessly in highlight culture, and still, Chicago had already enshrined him in bronze outside the United Center as the best there ever was, the best there ever will be. That's the contradiction Gil builds his entire argument around. Because if the GOAT label was locked in before the story was finished, then history didn't crown a completed resume, it froze an unfinished one in place. In Gil's framing, once that title was handed out at 3 rings, it meant someone else, somewhere down the line, had to be pushed out of it. And then Gil finally puts a name on the target.
There was an article in 89.
With 3 rings.
89, he was the greatest man to ever touch a basketball.
Meanwhile, Kareem got 6.
See, they're only using it to keep somebody away when the person they're blocking didn't have it at all when he...
Kareem Abdul-Jabbar, by 1989, already had a resume that most players in history could never touch. 6 championships. 6 MVP awards, still an NBA record. 2 finals MVPs, separated across different eras. And he was the league's all-time leading scorer. Gil's telling, that matters for one simple reason. Kareem wasn't a future legend yet, he was already the standard. Fully built, fully proven. The argument then turns sharper. Gil claims that somewhere along the way, the league and media ecosystem slowly shifted the GOAT conversation away from Kareem while he was still active, still dominant, still watching his own legacy being rewritten in real time. And that title, he argues, didn't go to someone with a finished resume, it went to a guard from North Carolina who, at that point, had 3 championships.
You didn't use it when you removed Kareem. You didn't use it when Bill Russell got moved. Yep. You didn't use that shit against Magic Johnson and Bird. You removed these dudes from the GOAT debate because of how Jordan looked. So you cannot use it against Kobe, LeBron, and all these guys.
Bill Russell, 11 championships, moved aside in the conversation. Magic Johnson, 5 rings, moved aside. Larry Bird, 3 rings, also moved aside. In Gil's framing, every major name that once sat in front of the throne was gradually shifted out of the way as the narrative tightened around a single figure. From there, his argument widens. He claims that many Jordan defenders today are doing something similar in reverse when they dismiss LeBron James. They emphasize rings as the ultimate measure now, even though earlier eras didn't consistently use them to settle the GOAT debate in the same strict way. In his view, it mirrors what he believes happened to Kareem. Greatness acknowledged, then slowly reframed as the story evolved. What makes the discussion more volatile, Gil suggests, is that Michael Jordan himself has addressed the GOAT debate on camera in past interviews. And depending on how those clips are interpreted, they don't always reinforce a simple, closed argument in Jordan's favor. That's where the conversation stops being just fan debate, and starts turning into interpretation wars over legacy, memory, and who gets to define greatness in hindsight.
GOAT term is never going to be something that I ever will get high or low about, It just doesn't exist with me.
In that clip, Michael Jordan is essentially rejecting the premise of the GOAT debate altogether. He treats the label as something external, media-driven, fan-driven, and not meaningful to him personally. When he says it doesn't exist with me, he's dismissing the idea that greatness can be reduced to a single title or comparison across eras. That he doesn't engage it like a ranking. He waves it off, almost as noise around the game rather than part of the game itself, and then, instead of leaning into the debate, he takes it a step further.
I think LeBron has had an unbelievable career, and I admire him for what he's done, and Kobe as well as KD and all these guys who have played in this era. I think they've elevated the game of basketball tremendously. I just don't agree when you start, trying to put one above the other.
Jordan's message in that interview is more measured than the fan discourse around him. He acknowledges LeBron's career as unbelievable, showing respect rather than rivalry, and then he resists the entire premise of ranking one player above another. For him, greatness isn't something that can be cleanly ordered across eras or careers. That's where Gil sees tension. Because a lot of the public argument built around Jordan is structured exactly that way, linear ranking, strict hierarchy, Jordan is above everyone. Gil's point is that when even the person at the center of that hierarchy rejects the idea of comparison as a meaningful exercise, it creates a contradiction between the myth and the man. From there, Gil drives toward his final takeaway, the line that he frames as the conclusion of everything he's been building up to.
Once LeBron James is solidified, you are the GOAT, Jordan swindles. That's why niggas is like, yo, why nobody talk about Kobe being the great? Because he got surpassed already.
Yep.
There's no point in talking about number 3. It's only 1 and 2 now.
In Gil's framing, Jordan swindles isn't an attack on Michael Jordan's skill or accomplishments on the court. It's a claim about how legacy was constructed afterward, how the statue, the GOAT label, and the cultural elevation above players like Kareem Abdul-Jabbar, Bill Russell, and Magic Johnson were cemented before the full story had played out. The argument hinges on timing, that the crown was effectively placed during an unfinished career narrative, and then reinforced through media, branding, and nostalgia from there. The conversation shifts into the LeBron era. Gil points to LeBron James' longevity and defining moments, especially the 2016 Cleveland comeback from a 3-1 deficit against the Golden State Warriors, as part of a resume that, in his view, forces constant re-evaluation of earlier rankings. That end that interpretation, Jordan isn't simply moved to second place in a future GOAT hierarchy. Gil goes further and suggests something more extreme, that cultural memory doesn't always preserve rankings cleanly. Just as Kobe Bryant became a cautionary example, widely respected but increasingly placed outside the central GOAT conversation, he argues Jordan could eventually be reframed in the same way if the narrative fully shifts. That it's a theory built less on box scores and more on how sports history gets rewritten over time.
Number 3, get the fuck on out of here.
I know what he got to do.
He got to change his name.
All right, bro. For the
I don't
third
give a fucking
name.
change. He ain't gonna change them stats.
Get a new name.
In Gil's framing, Jordan swindles is not an accusation about Michael Jordan's talent or legitimacy as a player. It's a claim about legacy construction, the bronze statue, the GOAT label, and the cultural elevation above figures like Kareem Abdul-Jabbar, Bill Russell, and Magic Johnson being solidified before the full career narrative had even played out. The core of the argument is timing. Gil suggests that greatness was formally declared in public memory while the resume was still incomplete, and then reinforced over decades through media storytelling, branding, and nostalgia. From there, he shifts the focus to LeBron James. In this view, LeBron's longevity and defining achievements, especially the 2016 Cleveland Cavaliers comeback from a 3-1 deficit against the Golden State Warriors, don't just add to his resume, they pressure the entire historical ranking system to be re-evaluated in real time. And Gil's most extreme claim is about what happens next. He argues that this isn't just a matter of Jordan slipping to second place in a revised hierarchy. Instead, he suggests a more drastic cultural shift in how sports legends are remembered. Kobe Bryant is used as the warning case, once central in the GOAT conversation, now largely spoken about as an icon rather than a contender in that trajectory. Gil's warning is blunt. If the narrative fully flips, Jordan doesn't simply get ranked lower, he gets recast through a different lens entirely.